From the Opopco Studios in Oklahoma City, you're watching The Press Row. I'm Jenni Carlson here with Barry Trammell. It's time for our We Pick 'em segment. This is a special March Madness edition brought to you by Harry's TV and Appliance. Go to Harry's, and remember, you'll get Harry as a friend. Barry, let's get right to it. We've got some games coming up. We could pick all 8 of them in this Sweet 16 round and have fun, but we're only going to get to 4. Let's start with this one on Thursday. Wichita State plays LaSalle, a completely unlikely matchup in the West, the 9-seed Wichita State against the 13-seed LaSalle. Who you got in this one?
I've got Wichita State. I watched both these teams play in the round of 32, and while I was pulling for LaSalle, I wasn't overly impressed with the Explorers. They looked a little bit on the ramshackle side to me. Very impressed with Wichita State. They look like a well-drilled team. I like the Shockers to advance here and threaten to go to the Final Four.
I'm going with Wichita State, too. Wow, I thought last year they were a team that could make a deep run. They had a really nice season a year ago, got bounced in the first round. They're making up for it this year. So I like Wichita State to beat LaSalle. Like I said, a completely unlikely matchup, but one that you've got to love if you love March Madness. All right, let's go to the East region, and Miami plays Marquette, Barry. It's 2-seeded Miami against 3-seeded Marquette on Thursday. Who you got in this one?
Well, I've got Miami, but Marquette worries me for this reason. They were lucky to get past Davidson, and then they were lucky to get past Butler. Generally, you'd say, they've been lucky to be here, but often you see a team that squeaks by in the early rounds, get its bearings, and get really strong in the Sweet 16 round. So I think Marquette's capable, but I'm picking Miami. The loss of center Reggie Johnson has me a little concerned, but I love this Miami team. I love Jeremy Marineg at coach. I think they've got a great bunch of athletes. I'm picking them to go to the Final Four. I'll stick with it.
I am too. I'm picking them to go to the Final Four, so I got to pick them to beat Marquette. But this should be a fun matchup. Buzz Williams always fiery on the sidelines. You know he'll have his team fired up and ready to go with a chance to advance to the Elite Eight. But Miami, a really strong guard-oriented team. You don't like that they lose an inside presence, but with those guards, as long as they're out there, Shane Larkin, start with him, you got to like what Miami puts on the floor. All right, to the South, Barry, on Friday, Kansas plays Michigan, top-seeded Jayhawks against the 4th-seeded Wolverines. Who you got in this one?
Well, I'm going to take Kansas. I picked them to go to the Final Four, but the truth is Michigan's a fabulous team when they're playing their game. When they got their system going, Michigan is very tough to beat. Some people think Michigan can win it all. They have Trey Burke, maybe the player of the year nationally, but I'll take Kansas. I like the experience. I like Bill Self in big games, but this is going to be a rousing game. The winner of this game is going to earn it.
You said earlier that a team that has some struggles early, catches its bearings, and maybe gets dangerous, gets on a little bit of a roll. I think Kansas might be a team that's doing just that. You know, you saw them struggle their opening round game, that shocking close game against the 16 seed, and then a first half against North Carolina that wasn't great. But then they really seemed to catch some fire in that second half against UNC. I think you're going to see them continue to roll. I like Kansas to go to the Final Four as well, but this might be the toughest test they have in regional play before they get to the Final Four. All right, lastly, Barry, another South regional game. Talk about unlikely. Florida playing Florida Gulf Coast, the 15-seeded Eagles playing the 3rd-seeded Gators on Friday. The Gulf Coast couldn't even get Florida to schedule them in a scrimmage, and now here they are in the Sweet 16. Who you got in this one?
Doing. Do we have time for me to get all the way to midnight? I'm afraid the clock's going to strike on America's new favorite team. I'd love to see the Gulf Coasters win, but I think Florida's going to win. Billy Donovan's an unbelievable coach. He's got a great team. Florida Gulf Coast, I love the way they play. They've captured America not just because of their name and their anonymity, but the way they play. They play free and easy and throw the ball at the basket for dunks, and it's a style that everyone wants to emulate. But I just think Florida will get them here and end the great story. If not, we've got a situation on our hands. If Florida Gulf Coast keeps winning, we've got a situation on our hands.
Yeah, you know what? I was in the house for that first round game. Florida Gulf Coast beat Georgetown because they were in Philly where the Sooners were, where I was covering NCAA tournament games, and they were as much fun as you could imagine. I mean, the Philly crowd just instantaneously loved this team, and what's not to love? I mean, everything about them is free and open, and they just seem to play with no fear. I think they're going to play with no fear against Florida, and I like them to score another upset. Why the heck not? I mean, it's unlikely to say that they would have won 2 games. Why not say they're going to win a third? I think Florida's the much better team, but I thought the last 2 games Florida Gulf Coast was playing a much better team, and here they are. I'm going to pick them to win again. All right, lastly, Bear, let's talk Final Four picks. Who you got going to the Final Four?
Well, 3 of my 4 originally are still alive, so I'll stick with them. That's Michigan State, Miami, and Kansas. So that leaves only out west where I had Gonzaga. I'm going to go with Wichita State. I think we've seen 3 mid-majors have made the Final Four in the last 3 years. I think that's a trend. I think we're going to see more and more of that. I think the Shockers can get it done. I'm going to take Wichita State.
Well, I've got all 4 of my original Final Four teams, so I'm going to stick with them. I've got Kansas, I've got Ohio State, I've got Miami, and I've got, who have I forgotten?
Louisville or Michigan?
Louisville, that's the one. I forgot who I had off the top bracket. Yeah, Louisville. I got them going. So I got Louisville and Miami in the final game. I'm going to stick with my Final Four picks. I have a feeling they're not all going to get there. But you know what? I started out with them. I'm riding them as far as they're going to go. Hey, be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoma.